All right, people, what up, though? So today we're going to speak on something that is pretty near and dear to my heart, something that I talk about frequently with people in my general circle, you know, my siblings and just people that are really close to me. And that thing is self-improvement or growth as a human being. I know that currently, like in this time now, we have these different sub movements and subcultures popping up, and we have things like certain like movements, like the red pill movement and black pill and all this other stuff. And I don't subscribe to any of these movements by any means, but I will say this: there with anything, there's always like those nuggets of truth and good information, and you got to learn how to sift the good and leave the rest to the side. But something that I hear spoke about a lot now that I didn't hear a lot about a few years ago is the idea of self-discipline and being a disciplined individual. And I didn't get it really, because listen, I used to be the complete opposite. I used to be a very undisciplined individual, someone who had very low standards for themselves, who just I think I just didn't care that much about certain things that I should have been caring about at the time. But we live and we learn. But being in that state of having very little discipline in my life and having very low standards for myself and always negotiating with myself, I started to put myself into a state of depression, in a state of anxiety and just uneasiness, general uneasiness, because there were times where I had to prep myself to go to grocery stores. I had to prep myself to go to the bank. I had to, you know what I mean? Because my anxiety had gotten to a point where it started to grow. And I think a lot of those issues, the depressions and the anxiety, these things come from me having no sort of, like I said, one, a standard for myself, and two, I felt as if I had no purpose. There was nothing that I was moving towards. I was kind of ambitionless. I wasn't completely ambitionless, but I didn't have any worthwhile goals or ambitions, and they were always self-serving. They were never to be better for anyone else but other than myself. And it wasn't even being better so much as it was just wanting more for myself. And I think, truthfully though, that may have been the kernel of or the spark that sort of ignited my spirit to move more so towards this idea of evolving or growing as an individual and seeing the value in growing and becoming a better individual. I got to a point where I was just miserable. I just felt terrible all the time. I was like, damn, this is what life is, feeling all this anxiety, or just feeling like I'm aimless and I'm just kind of moving about through life with no real purpose. To me, that was just unfulfilling. And I knew, like, if this is it, then what's it all worth? You know what I mean? And really, it was just me being soft, like, you know what I'm saying? And I know that's, you know, that may be controversial to some people to say, oh no, you gotta be easy. Like, bro, listen, I understand having some degree of balance in your life. You need it, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like, there's a certain threshold that I wasn't even touching that I am capable of surpassing, you know what I'm saying? That I was just like barely even like scratching the surface of what was possible for myself. You know what I mean? To be fair, I've never really been the type of individual to complain. I've never really been the type of individual to really woe is me, although, or at least I would never lament like outwardly towards people like, oh, poor me. But internally, I did do a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? But I would never like go to people and just like complain about my life and complain about my circumstances and situations. I've always been pretty self-aware in that regard. But once I got to that point where I decided, okay, enough is enough. Like I gotta make some changes. Things started to blossom and open up for me, and a lot of those things came to me. A lot of those sort of rewards and clarity came from applying discipline to my life and putting myself on routines and giving myself certain standards to live by, and making sure that I wasn't negotiating with myself all the time. Like, damn, like, you know, oh, I'm tired today, or like, you just get it done. Like, get it done, and then you can move on with your life, and you can do whatever you want to do, or whatever comes next. You know what I'm saying? These sort of principles I first learned about. Well, see, okay, so I already had this sort of longing for something better for myself, but then I started to read things like, well, I started to learn about Stoicism and people like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and Epictetus, and just the general teachings of Stoicism. And in learning about these teachings and these principles and practices, I started to see how it made sense. It just made sense to me. And it also resonated with the kind of person that I am, truthfully. Like, I'm kind of that sort of person anyway, because like some people can read about Stoicism and learn about it and be like, man, it does nothing for me. But for me, it just clicked because it made sense. And so I started to sort of apply some of the principles and practices that I was learning from Stoicism and apply them to my own personal life. And also a lot of teachings and things that I learned from Rastafari and the teachings of His Majesty. And I would read these books and all of these different things, like His Majesty saying, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically like, to be a leader, you have to have a great level of self-discipline, and you have to even forego sleep, or you have to forego your own bodily needs to be a great leader, and to really stand on your square and be the individual that people can come to and feel safe and solid in. And to me, like, that's what I wanted out of life. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we all want, but I think we just don't know how to get there. And I think some of us are unwilling to push past that bit of adversity that comes with becoming better, because with it comes adversity. Like you're not gonna get in shape unless you're willing to go through some form of adversity. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of principles and a lot of things that if we apply to our life, we can become better, and we can become individuals that we admire and respect. And that's ultimately, that's what we want, because I think a lot of times that's where our low self-esteem or our insecurities, all of these things come from, is from just not respecting ourselves, or just feeling, because we've never proved ourselves to ourselves. And that's what I had to learn how to do. And that comes, and you can get to that point through many different forms and fashions. But for me, it came through just like rigorous training, and just knowing what I'm capable of, and seeing like, damn, I was limiting myself this entire time, not knowing that I had the capability of far exceeding what I thought was possible. And now, even now at this point, you know, I feel like I'm so much better than I used to be, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not even an eighth or a 16th of what I could be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm a baby, just really now learning who I am and I won't say that. I feel like I've always kind of known who I am, but I feel like I'm tapping into a different version of myself that I was unaware of, because I had so many self-limiting beliefs about myself. You know what I mean? I think self-awareness first is super important. You have to be self-aware first to know where you're at and to be honest about, like, damn, I'm fucked up. You know, like mentally I'm fucked up, spiritually I'm fucked up. You have to be self-aware enough to know that that's where you're at. And then once you get to that point, you're able to start making the improvements by applying certain principles to your life. And then that's when you start to glow up. You feel me? Like, that's what it is. It's a beautiful thing. And I hope that we all can come to an understanding of striving to be better. You know what I'm saying? I know it's not easy. I know it's not always ideal for everyone, but it should be, because ultimately what the world is an accumulation of people, an accumulation of how people feel about themselves. And if we can all start to sort of raise our standard and raise our self-perception and how we feel about ourselves, I think we could definitely make some changes in the world, you know. And they say, like, it's funny, like, you think about, I think about the song, the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror, and that shit never really makes sense. It makes sense, but it don't make sense. It's like something can make sense to you, but it don't really hit. But when you start going through certain shit and you start doing certain things, you're like, damn, that shit really hit. Like, because I used to live in a space of, like, I'm one person, man. I can't change the world. What can I do? I can't make a difference. But then when I realized, like, damn, if I just make myself better and hopefully inspire other people to try and make themselves better, that shit, I'm touching, and then they do the same thing, and then they do the same thing. We touching lives, like, we making shit change. You know what I mean? Listen, call me crazy. Maybe I am, I don't know, but I'm willing to try. And for the sake of myself and the people that I love most, I'm willing to give it all. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to really push myself to go to places and do things that I never thought I was capable of doing. And I've already achieved things that at one point in my life, I didn't even see possible, man. You know? So, yeah, with that being said, that's really all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to touch on. You know, I do these videos on the fly. I don't really write anything out. I don't really even have a plan. I just think of a topic and I go off the top. So if I'm missing anything or there's something you think you could add to the conversation to sort of expand and make it better, please do that. You know, I always encourage people to hop in the comments and leave me comments about what they think and their own personal takes on the subject. Yeah, man. If you like the video, please give it a like. I'd appreciate it. Y'all do y'all best. Until next time. Peace.